Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Flip Side. The first Monday of every month, we talk about mindset, and every other Monday after that, it's all about real estate. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speaker is Michael Buslovich. Now, before we get started, I want to share some exciting news with you. I have a social networking platform for the real estate investing industry. So, if you're an investor, if you're a mentor, or if you're a professional, you want to be in this platform because it transforms the way you work. And you'll get to see Michael's profile in there. You get to learn a lot more about him, even more than you'll be learning today here. So now let's get back to the show. On the flip side, specifically today, we are going to be talking about how easy or hard it is to invest in Florida as a Canadian. So if you guys are ready to hear some more information on that, let's get Michael on the stage. Let's send him some thumbs up, some happy faces, some fire. Let's get him pumped up and ready to get on the stage. Let me just So if you guys have questions, send us the questions, and send us the questions in the chat. If you have questions, feel free to ask us. And Michael, if you can just confirm you saw my invite. I'm gonna just do it one more time. I can see yours, and I think we got you on. Maybe these days. Okay, here we go.
I'm
How
on.
you on?
I'm on. How are
Good.
you?
How are you? Thanks for
I'm
coming on.
great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So before we get started, let's just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. How long you've
Sure.
been investing for? What are your businesses all about? Whatever you'd love to share.
Sure. I'm a licensed, a dual licensed realtor. Let's start from that in Ontario and in Florida. But besides that, going back in time, I've been investing in the Florida market. I've been investing in Ontario too, but in the Florida market since 2014. So I've been doing it for myself originally. I started as an investor, and then as I progressed and people started saying, "Hey, Michael, could I invest with you?" I said, "Hey, I can make this into a business." So, it's kind of exciting. So this is kind of how it all transitioned, and because I go back and forth so much, and we've done so many different projects, I became super versed when it comes to the different markets and strategies for investors, including myself, because I've always been my own guinea pig.
Mm-hmm.
So we did fix and flips. We've done buy and holds. We have Airbnbs. So done different types of investing strategies, and Florida has become a great market. And what I found was a disconnect for Canadians because they were unsure of what to do. They would Google stuff. They would go online. They would call local realtors or call other professionals, but there was still that disconnect where they were not sure of the processes of how to actually do it. So that's how, Suncasa originated, from really that need for us to help and connect the Canadians with the Florida market. And the US market too, we are expanding to other states as well, but Florida has been our main market.
That's amazing. That's great. And I think that's always even something that we always say in our world is that uh, when you're in it and you have the business, like that combination is just so lethal in a good way because it's just like been there, you've done it, so you know what the experiences are like.
Absolutely.
And so you can really talk to the clients in that aspect just because it's like you've been there, you felt it, right?
Absolutely. I think it's important to do it yourself, understand the processes, have the right professionals in place. So when we are working with our clients, it becomes so easy for them because we literally hold their hand through the whole process. So there's no, confusion or misunderstanding or that disconnect or fear. Because once we eliminate the fear, they're more comfortable to do something, especially across the board.
That's a great point. Because it is true. Generally, it's a fear. What is fear? The unknown. If you just don't know how to get that done, and it's like having someone like you there to make it easier. So, with that, let's get started with. So, how easy or hard is it for a Canadian to go and invest in Florida?
I mean, look, just statistically, $6.6 billion in sales last year were created by Canadians. So to answer, to give you some numbers, Canadians are buying.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 3.2 million visitors, Canadian visitors visiting Florida annually. So Canadians know Florida. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how easy it is for them to buy, I think once you have the proper structure, and what we do is we help guide them through it. Like, if can they get a mortgage? Can they do other stuff? Once we provide all those professionals, it's not that difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
think
Like
what
as you said, they guide you through the way. So it's like you
correct.
basically have built them the power team someplace where they just come in and then they basically lead them on the way on how to get everything done the
Yeah.
right way.
So we've created our own, like I always use this, but I always say we've created our own ecosystem where
Mm-hmm.
it's specifically geared for Canadians to purchase in the state of Florida. And like I said, we are expanding to other states as well. But Florida has been great, and Canadians love it, especially through the winter time when it gets cold. They want to get out of the cold here. And we've made it very easy for them. So to answer that question, it's not that it's difficult. It's just people don't really know, where to gather the right information in order for them to do this in a not stressful way. Because if you don't know what you're doing, it becomes stressful.
100%. That's a great point. And the fact that you said you guys are providing that team that just helps them through the week, I'm sure anyone can get it done on their own, but it's probably like 2 or 3 times longer and more difficult because you yourself are trying to figure out what is the next steps and what to do. Where it's like if it's just like a step, you you can get all your questions answered. You can
Absolutely.
like have someone just tell you exactly what are the steps and just make it easier for you. That being said, so with that, how long is that process? Let's say if someone, not considering obviously the finding the house part, because that's each person can take the time. But let's say once they found the house and they're going through the process of everything they need to do, how long do you see that being for
Well,
someone? Like, what's
I'm,
it at a high level look
So
like?
I'm gonna take it a few steps back. Essentially, when people reach out to us organically through our social media or referrals or our partners, what we do is we have a process, we have a system that we've created. So we do a discovery Zoom, understanding the needs and wants of our investor, of our client, also locations. And we don't sell, we educate. That's been my motto through the whole time. Even when I created this company, I said we need to educate. The more we help people understand, the more easier and comfortable it is for them to do the transaction, but also enjoy, the product that they bought, which is their investment property. So to go back, we guide them through it, and then once we get to those stages, then we start setting them lists, and then from there we'll actually do an analysis of the property. So we'll underwrite it, meaning what their ROI is and so forth. And then from there, usually we get, they get on a plane or they do sight unseen and they head to. So it could take between some. We've had clients, I've been on 2 Zooms with them within a week, and the following week they're in Florida. And we've had clients where it's taken, 3 to 4 months, not four, but about 3 months until, they get their schedule organized and stuff. So to do the whole transaction, especially when it comes to mortgages, usually a close would be about 45 days. That's a
Okay. And
standard
they
closing.
can get all their whatever it is here in Canada. So 45 days is enough for them to get all their documents.
Absolutely, because we give them a guide. So essentially, we provide them everything that they need. From their accounting, how to set up if they're setting up as a corporation or whatever they're creating, what kind of entity they're creating. To if they need tax attorneys, we do have accountants as well, obviously. And if they're looking to transition, if they're looking to immigrate, that's obviously a longer process. Um, you know, and we make sure that everything is given to them, cleaners, handy services, anything that they need to be prepared. So once they do close on their property, they're ready to go. So we literally give it to them on a silver platter. And then obviously they can choose if they want to work with our partners or not, but at least that streamlines it for them. And this is why it is not such a long process because they're not sitting there looking, interviewing, checking. And again, these experts that I work with, I personally use them. So if I feel confident to give them to my clients, then I know that they're good. Otherwise, I would not recommend them. And it also depends on the location. It depends if you're in Orlando or Miami or whatever the case. We have experts in each, different city to make sure that we give them the proper channels so they'd be happy with their investment and they don't have any hiccups. So to answer your question, we could do it because I've been doing it for so long that I've streamlined it. If they were to do it themselves, obviously it's going to take much longer. You got to meet people, you got to talk to people, you got to interview people. It's just a longer process.
Makes sense. And so let's say, is there anything that they should be getting done beforehand, or like let's say the not the closing day, before they put the offer in, or is that 45-day period if they're working with
Well,
you,
I
they
mean, we do a
they can.
yeah, so that's a very good question. Generally speaking, we get them ready, like we do a pre-approval with one of our lenders. So once we know they're ready to go on that end, because generally, especially in the US or Florida, anytime we put an offer, we also include the pre-approval letter. And what that does is it shows that we're serious about the purchase and also that our buyer is qualified. And again, we're talking about buyers, not sellers, obviously. So selling is very different. We put the sign up and we put out MLS and so forth, and we share with our investors as well. But on that end, yes. So then they're prepared. Once they're good to go, it's just a matter of finding the right property. And then before we even put a offer on, we also analyze the property. So I use a third party software. So again, this is not me creating projections or performas on an Excel spreadsheet. We go into more of a deep dive where we actually sit there using, software that, let's say it's an Airbnb model that pulls, 10 million listings a day from Airbnb and Verbo, allow us to get the daily and night or the nightly and occupancy rates percentage wise and then we can break down the costs associated expenses to give them a true number of exactly what their return on investment will be. And I think that's why clients love it so much, and especially working with us, is because we don't miss anything. There's no holes in our system. It's everything that they need to make a confident decision on their purchase is given to them. So, and we share that information. We'll email it to them so they can review it and stuff. So we're very transparent in order because at the end of the day, my focus is to make sure our clients are happy. They buy the right product that suits their needs, if it's an investment or their lifestyle. And at the same time, I mean that's we want to make sure that people get the best for value for their money.
100%. And just I guess for specifically like real estate investors, curious on what you've seen. Actually, yeah, because I don't feel like this applies too much like people that want to go live there. But what have you seen the trends like? What was it like? Let's say, before all this interest rate hike, have you seen any changes in the type of investing that's
Uh,
being done?
I'm heavily involved in. I mean, most of my clients here in Canada, Ontario, are investors. I'm an investor, so I'm in that realm. You and I met at an investor meetup, so this is kind of our circle. This is what we're doing all the time. So we're always in that environment, and I see that a lot of transitions with our clients in Ontario is they started selling their properties because they have issues with their tenants. With this landlord tenant act, so it's not landlord friendly. The interest rates, when we do an analysis, the numbers don't make sense. Nothing cash flows. People are paying out of their pocket. So in the US, even though the interest rates are higher, but the acquisition costs are much lower. And the rents are still very comparable. So when you do the numbers, they make sense. And most of our clients are still cash flowing even based on the higher interest rates that they're receiving in the US. But it allows them still to utilize their properties if they want to enjoy them or not, or even a straightforward investment, but at least they're getting returns because they have so many different choices of investments. From Airbnbs to pad splits to multifamily. I mean, we can go on and on. There we have different models depending on the appetite of the investor. But but they actually that word cash flow has, I'm sure you've seen it on social media, on on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever, and it's usually Americans talking about it. Cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Grant Cardone is famous for it, right? It's all about cash flow. We're Canadians, we're always focused on future value. Oh, when I sell in 2 years, I'm going to make $250,000. When I do this, my property's worth this much. And now what's happened with all the changes here, everybody had a wake-up call and say, you know what? That's why they call it the good old days for a reason, is because the markets are not sustainable anymore, not in Canada. Unless you've had it for many, many years and you bought it for a very low price and it still works, great. But anybody looking to continue on, there's not much selection. And you really, even if you go in the outskirts, again, you're dealing with the same thing. What if the tenants don't pay? And if the tenants don't pay, you're floating that mortgage, you're paying that debt, you're servicing that debt, and that's an issue. So it's very simple. This is what you buy for in the US. This is what your expenses are. This is what your return is. That's it. Now, if the markets go up, with inflation, 3 to 5% annually, you're going to get that anyways. So it's very realistic. Now, if the markets go crazy, hey, it's a home run. You win. But at least you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. It's not speculative, and you're not looking at future one day, someday, maybe. There's no maybes. It's not a
Crossing your
gamble.
fingers.
Yeah, because it's not a gamble. We don't gamble. It's very calculated. Everything that we do is calculated, and and we give you true numbers and true values. So when you're looking at it, this is what you should be getting because that is true market value in today's current market. So it's non-speculative. We're not thinking about 3, 5, 10 years. I know what I'm getting today, what my rent is today that I'm collecting, and what I'm putting in my pocket every month.
I
So
love
to me, that's
that.
a way safer, realistic play than a what if. And as I don't do what ifs.
Okay, but I have the same philosophy, and especially, which is like what I aspire to and always want to do, is that treating it as a business, like you, which is like, what is it doing for me now? What am I doing now? So I know it's like, what are my profits? What are my debts? What's everything? So I know what's going on with the property. So I
Absolutely.
completely agree with you. And so now getting, but so does it? It sounds like in Florida itself, so the strategies then haven't changed very much? Is it still the same, or maybe
I
just
mean,
like
it
probably a little bit
depends
less
on the
profit?
market. Well, that's a great question. It depends on the market. I mean, so we usually start off with South Florida. Again, it depends on your pocket, what you can afford, what you want to do. So there's really a strategy for any investor. Pre-COVID, 2019 and so forth, you could have bought stuff for super cheap. Florida has not, it's still, there's still things to do, but it's not as inexpensive as it used to be. But there are markets that we're doing stuff in, like Jacksonville, other cities that are a lot less expensive to get into, or like acquisition costs are much less. And so we have different strategies depending on the investor and depending on the market. We're all looking at Texas as well. I mean, that's a market that we're entertaining as well. So I mean, Suncast is really a company designed to help investors in the sun, casa. Obviously, you know what that means. It's a home in the sun. It doesn't matter if it's in Texas or Florida. It's just Florida was our start just because it's still a good market and Canadians know Florida. So I don't have to sell them on Florida. It's just I have to educate them on Florida, right? It's not like, oh, I don't know, is Florida? I'm like, have you been to Disney? Yes. Have you been to Miami? Yes. So that conversation starts. It's just a matter of where do you see yourself, investing? And I say this all the time, guys. I mean, you got everybody wants to Miami, and then when we go through the pricing, it doesn't make sense. And I say, is your son looking to get is your money looking to get a suntan, or or you're looking to make money? So I mean, if your money's going to the beach, great. But if you're looking to actually get a return on your investment, you have to think smart, and you have to think outside of the markets that you go on vacation to, because you're not going on vacation. You're looking to invest. Now, if you
That's another great point that you make. A lot of people, and I think this is more on the newer investor side, where they see a property as if it's their own. And as unless you're buying it for yourself, yeah, I get what you want because it is what you want.
right,
But if it's not, if it's for investment purpose, you have to have that hat as an investor. And it's like, what do the end users want to have if that's what
right.
it is? If it's a rental property or Airbnb, it's about them. It's not about you anymore. What you really care about is like, am I able to cover my expenses? Am I making an appropriate amount of profit in it? And it's like really putting that business hat on.
Yeah, I mean, look, your objective is to get a return on your money. You're taking your hard-earned Canadian money. Okay, you're getting a mortgage, so you do see a currency exchange on your down payment. So you're taking your money from Canada, you're bringing it to the United States in a market that you may not know, Florida market, let's use that one, and you want to get some sort of return because you don't see the value in the Canadian market. So so again, like you said, we have to create that disconnect of emotion and put on your business hat on and think, okay, where if I can stretch my money, where's the best place to put it? And when we do the numbers, when we analyze the properties, these are the best type of markets because they're business friendly and they're also landlord friendly. Again, if you're looking for a secondary home or a vacation home, that's a little different. Okay, because I get it, you're going to use it as long as it pays for itself, you're fine. And that's fine too. But if you're saying, look, I own a property in Florida already, or I have a cottage, or I want to really live there, but I want to get some sort of return, then let's look at those things. But again, it all just comes to numbers. I tell my clients you're buying a little small hotel. Okay,
Mhm.
your hotel needs to be profitable, right? You need to have people come in and out. You have to have proper people cleaning it, make sure that it's ready. And I'm talking about like the Airbnb model, for example. You know, and then you have
Right
to have
now,
the right.
what is the longest type? I mean, sorry, what is the biggest strategy right now? Is Airbnb the bigger
So
strategy
Airbnb
with it?
has been our number one seller just because Canadians want to utilize it for themselves. In our busiest months, believe it or not, like this is our strategy month where we regroup as a team, as a company, and we start planning for, the rush in the winter. So as the weather cools down in Canada, and we get so many more people inquiring and more interested in wanting to do stuff. Number one, they're already booking their vacations to go to Florida anyways. So they're like, hey, while I'm there, I might as well go look at something. Secondly, the weather, because they're looking out their window and they're getting depressed, because I get seasonal depression. And they're like, you know what? I want to get out of here. And maybe we've
Mhm.
been thinking about it, but we haven't made any moves. And so we're kind of like that extra little push for them where they're a little bit nervous. They put it on the back burner. They thought about it. And now we kind of make it a reality. It's like, yeah, you can do this. It's not that difficult. So Airbnb has been our number one. But now, as we're getting more sophisticated investors saying, hey, you know what? My whole focus is I don't necessarily need an Airbnb. I want cash flow. We're looking at more like multifamily, pad splits, different strategies. And we're also working on with our investors on projects collectively, like a JV, like a joint venture type of partnership.
Hope you just muted for a minute. You just muted for a minute.
Sorry, yeah, no, I'm getting calls. I apologize.
But then, so okay, okay, like so, let's say talking about the Airbnb, because like you said, most people probably like the Airbnb. Like you said, because they could probably maybe live in it for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So, what is that time frame? Like, if they did want to stay, like, what's the longest a Canadian can stay
Well,
in their place for?
okay, so the maximum legally, legally we're allowed to stay there for 6 months. That means within that 1 year frame, and then it resets, or time frame, it
Mhm.
resets annually. So 6 months. You
Okay,
can add,
good.
I mean, you can kind of divide it within that year, but it's got to be 6 months is the longest that you could stay. So if you stay 2 weeks and then a month and so forth. Um,
Mhm.
but
The
we're
total
seeing a
has
lot of
to
people.
be up to 6 months then, the total, right? The total
Yeah,
is six
but we
months.
are seeing a lot of Canadians wanting to move outside of Canada. There has been a huge increase, and we've done so many Zooms, and been a guest speaker with immigration lawyers and so forth, and because people asking us questions, and they do the immigration side, but Canadians are looking to transition, so I mean they want to live there permanently,
Mhm.
but for Canadians that are still wanting, they still have roots in Canada, they can't, they need to be here. 6 months is the time frame, but what works great with the Airbnb model is because they get to use it whenever they want. So there,
Exactly. You
and
can
we
book
and
off
we
the time.
yeah, and the
Makes
way
sense.
we do it is we put them into communities where they're non-restrictive. What that means is if they want to rent it, because I have strategies. So my thing is like this: if Airbnb is slow, okay, then maybe we can do an annual rental for that time frame. So at least it offsets majority of your costs. Again, think like an investor, right? Not
Mhm.
emotional. So
Mhm.
at least it offsets your costs. And if you decide to live there, you want to move there, you want to stay there for 6 months, you have those options. So there's zero restrictions. And that's why Central Florida, especially within the Orlando area, has been such a big ticket item for us, is because those communities are specifically designed for Airbnb or short term or long term, and they're non restrictive. So it
Oh,
allows
perfect.
our
And
investors.
but you don't foresee any changes, like we've seen here, a lot of changes that's making it more difficult with
No,
Airbnb. You,
so good. That's a very good point. So those areas have to stay because they're an extension of the parks. They're an extension of Disney, Universal, and so forth. So unless those places disappear, which I highly doubt, that's not going to happen, then you have to have these communities because people need to stay somewhere.
Mhm. And that's great to know, right? Because then it's like that. You have to, not only are you being strategic about the kind of property, but the location is important. Especially, for example, if Airbnb is maybe a must for you, like you have, because like you said, like one, maybe you need the profits, like a certain amount of profits, but the other one is also that availability where you might want to book off time for yourself. And so that strategy there, even in the location, becomes important because you want to place with the Airbnb, if you're saying that you're looking for locations where it's not going to change, and we're gonna not see the kind of problems that we're seeing, for example, like here in Canada or in Canada
Yeah,
specifically.
correct. So yeah, so what happens in Canada is, so let's, I don't know, Niagara Falls, or even in Innisfil, certain areas, that what happens is the local people that have been living there see the influx of all these investors, all these people coming in. They don't like it because they moved there because it was quiet, it was peaceful. They don't like the changes. So what they do is they're obviously involved with the town and so forth. And what happened, I don't have to go through the process, but so they say, you know what, we don't want this much Airbnb. It's just too much. There's things happening. We don't have control. So what they do is they start restricting. This is the Canadian way: overmanage, 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 control, restrict. That's the Canadian philosophy. If something's too good, let's put a restriction on it. Let's put some sort of tax on it. You're making money, let me tax you some more. Oh, what do you mean, capital gains? Oh no, you can't make too much. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to make this political. But you understand, and this is the frustration I see with a lot of Canadians. It's the same thing. Where in the US, especially in the state of Florida, where it's business friendly, they want people to do business. They're like, hold on, you're coming to Orlando, you need to live somewhere, or you need to stay somewhere. So we have to have these designated areas, and there's a lot of them. It's not just like one or two, or there's one main, the Kissimmee and Davenport, but I mean a lot of communities that are geared specifically for Airbnb short-term stays. It's because we want you to stay. You're bringing all this money into, the tourism, hospitality is a major part in the U.S., especially in the state of Florida, because so many visitors in Orlando is all year round because the people are not coming to the beach, right? They're coming to go to Disney, they're coming to go to Universal and all these other parks. They're coming for dining, they're for golf. Golf is huge in Orlando. So it really allows people to come all year round. So they need to have it. So to answer your question, I don't see that happening because they specifically created these communities for that particular reason, is because they
Mhm.
want people to come and because of proximity to the parks because they're
Mhm.
very close to the parks. Because people don't want to drive an hour to go to Disney. They want to drive 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, right? And then they want to sit at the pool the rest of the days when they're not at the parks. So,
Mhm.
you
Yeah, and
know,
that's a great point. Like you said, in the US, it is more about running businesses. Like they do favor businesses. Over here, it's like the socialist or something type of
yeah.
society. So it's a completely different mind. And like you said, this is one of the reasons why you're seeing a lot of investors disappearing outside of Canada because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, it's something where you're just like, again, where does it make sense, right? It's like even what you're saying with Miami, right? If you're investing in Miami, you're going back to those futuristic probabilities of like in this amount of time, this is going to make this much money, but you don't know these
But
probabilities.
but
Yeah.
Miami's also restrictive. So a lot of the condos they have minimum 90 days. Because a lot of people live in these units. They've moved to these units. So the condo association, there's a board, obviously,
Mhm.
and when they do their votes on certain things and restrictions and guidelines or whatever the case, they don't want all these transients in their properties every single day, every other day. They want calmness. They want people to come. Sure, you want to stay there, but it's got to be a minimum. So now we have less opportunity to pick which buildings allow short term. Plus, with all these assessments that were done with that building that collapsed, in Miami, everybody has to go through this assessment. So these HOA, which these maintenance fees have gone up astronomically, as well as insurance, property, and property tax. Property tax has also gone up because those condos or these homes have increased in value by double almost or more. So now the value, obviously, you got to pay. The more expensive the home, the higher the tax.
Mhm.
So when we start plugging in these numbers, and again, Miami is my first love. Not Miami. I love South Florida. I'm not a party person, but I love South Florida. I love the beaches and stuff. I love being there. It's fantastic. But as an investor, like I'll go there and have a good time. And I used
Exactly. Right?
and I
It's
used to
like
live
you have
there.
to be like, which mind are you going into with Miami? Like you said, is it in the investor mindset or entrepreneur mindset?
Yeah,
Oh, or is it or is it like I just want to have a place for myself, and then that's different.
yeah, and I think what's happened was I went so going back to 2012, 14, I went there as well and I met some people and I said I'm going to buy in South Florida and I actually started investing in Tampa. That was my very first. And I met somebody and they said, why don't you come to Tampa and check it out? I'm like, Tampa? Well, this is going back in time. Who wants to be in Tampa? Who everybody wants to be in Miami. So I went there and I started buying properties there like for 50, 60 grand, like super cheap in those times. Now they're probably worth like $500,000. Not probably, they're worth about 400 to 500,000. But the point is that there's a saying that he said to me, and I use this all the time with my clients. Miami's a place you spend money. Tampa's a place you make money. So again, it depends on your pocket. Like
I
if you
agree.
have deep
And
pockets,
where your mind is at,
if
like
you
you're
have deep
saying, right?
pockets,
It's like, are you there to make money, like you said? Or is this just like something for you or futuristic? There are people who are just like, put my money somewhere and let it stay for 10, 20 years and then I'll look at it. So it really
yeah.
depends on that mindset. Do you have any final comments that you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I think it's just important to connect with the right team. And we are your team to help you through the process. And again, there's no selling, there's no like, we don't put you on a Zoom and try to sell you something. My objective is to just give you as much information as you possibly can have. So when you're making that decision, it's the right decision for you, not for me. So again, and we guide you through that process so we don't miss anything. But again, it is not that complicated. We actually make it fun because I want you to have fun. I mean, it should be fun. Yes, it's an investment. Yes, you have to be serious about it, but let's have fun. I've done so many, meetings in the pool. you know, you know, so it's been great, or smoking a cigar or whatever the case. So, and that's the thing about Florida too. It could be technically a workation. You can come there. We could do some business, look at some properties, but also have fun doing it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
It was so
Thank you.
much fun to talk with you, to learn a lot more about Florida. If you guys love what you heard, his bio will be in the REI FAM. It's going to be listed below. He will also be tagged here, so you can DM him any more questions, or if you want to just see what he's up to, he will be tagged on here. If you want to see my shows or you want to see what I'm up to, then definitely tag me too. Michael, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you so much. I
on.
appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone.
Remember,
See you
guys,
all the next
life is better in the
episode.
sun. Take care.
Bye.